Talk to me about DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie, because we're 4 days away from the trade deadline now, and his name is being talked about.
It's interesting that we got reports today, our Justin Verrier reported that the New Orleans Pelicans have not only inquired about DeMarcus Cousins, but also from your Pacers, Paul George. And it's exactly what I wanted to talk about because Carmelo Anthony, DeMarcus Cousins, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, the likelihood is none of them are going anywhere before Thursday's trade deadline. But we're going to be talking about those guys all week long because it was about 10 or so days ago, Vlade Divac, the Kings GM, told me on the record, we are not trading DeMarcus Cousins. But that doesn't stop teams from calling.
Right.
That's, New Orleans, they put the call in and said, what would it take to get DeMarcus Cousins? They called Indiana. What would it take to get Paul George? Prepare for 4 days of that. Teams are going to be testing the resolve of the teams that have these star players.
Right.
They don't necessarily believe it when a team says so-and-so is off the market.
The Kings insisted they were not going to trade Boogie, and yet here we are. So what happened?
Yeah, Steve, it was just about 2 weeks ago that Vlade Divac told me emphatically we are not trading DeMarcus Cousins. We want him to be for the long term. Of course, Cousins, had he stayed in Sacramento, would have been eligible for an extension in excess of $200 million this summer. But the New Orleans Pelicans this week basically just ignored those proclamations from the Kings, and they put together this offer, initially thought to be Buddy Hield and 2 future first-round picks. It's actually Buddy Hield, a future first, Tyreke Evans, who, of course, was drafted in Sacramento. Very interesting gamble by the Pelicans because Jaron Akana, Cousins' agent, also told me tonight DeMarcus Cousins is unlikely to sign an extension with anyone who trades for him before Thursday's deadline. So the Pelicans are just going ahead with the gamble by all accounts and would submit this trade for league approval tomorrow when the league reopens for business.
Marc Spears, what's your take on this now? I mean, the Pelicans come into play into the All-Star break just 2.5 back of the Nuggets for the last playoff spot in the Western Conference. Does this make them a playoff team right now?
Hey, I'm happy for Cousins. It was time for him to get out of there. I know he's loyal and this, that, and the other, but it was just a bad situation. How many coaches has he had? How many general managers, teammates, owners? He just needed to go. He wants to get to the playoffs. He'll get it here. And to me, the Pelicans are making a great, great move. It's not going to be risky. Hey, Jaron, I've known him for a long time, but I take the risk. Why? One, he's going to be playing with one of the best players in the world, Anthony Davis. Two, he's from Mobile, Alabama, which isn't too far from here. And also, I believe the Pelicans are in their TV market, so people back home can watch him all the time. I think they'll be able to re-sign him despite what's being said. I love this move for New Orleans.
How do you see this all working out in New Orleans now?
Well, listen, if you're in New Orleans, you've got to take a big swing. They've had trouble luring free agents in the past. Boogie Cousins is going to be a free agent, but he had so much more money to make in Sacramento. There was no chance you can lure him away as a free agent. He already said on the record he wanted to stay in Sacramento. He wanted to see his jersey retired in the rafters there. And so if you're in New Orleans, if you're any other team that had interest in Boogie Cousins, and by the way, there are a lot of them around the league, some that may surprise you, but you have to make a big swing here. About 10 days ago, I'm told they were very close on a deal for Jahlil Okafor. That deal fell apart over protections on the first-round pick that they would have included. That deal also, though, did not include Buddy Hield. It was a smaller deal that was for Tyreke Evans, a first and a future second. But this one obviously is a much bigger swing. And from what I hear, they're very confident that they can re-sign Boogie Cousins as a free agent this summer, that they would not have gone this far with this trade if they didn't have some assurances or at least some confidence that he would re-sign in New Orleans. He's from nearby Mobile, Alabama. They think that he's going to like playing with Anthony Davis and playing for Coach Alvin Gentry.